Typically speaking, a video game hero is supposed to make things at least a little bit better. Unfortunately, I suspect the following characters were busy when that little memo was sent out. You know, busy being out in the world, making everything worse for everyone else. I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are 8 video game heroes who made everything worse. Number 8, Chris Redfield, Resident Evil Village. Resident Evil Village opens with the shocking murder of Ethan Winter's wife Mia and the kidnapping of their daughter Rose. Now that's surprising in and of itself, but here's the twist. The one pulling the trigger is none other than series veteran Chris Redfield, who actually rescued Mia and Ethan in the previous game and has been a mentor ever since. Of course, later it turns out that Chris hasn't completely lost his marbles, as the person that he shot wasn't actually Mia. That was main villain Mother Miranda, who had kidnapped Mia shortly after Rose was born and used her ability to shapeshift at will to take her place. And the second Chris figured it out, he and his men filled her with lead. So, what's the problem here? It's the good guy killing the bad guy. Well, there's the teensy-weensy, 80-bit, nigh insignificant detail that he did not tell Ethan any of this. He barges in, shoots his wife, and then takes Ethan hostage, and even when Ethan escapes and searches for answers in the titular village, Chris still doesn't tell him what's going on. His reason? Well, it's to keep Ethan out of this and to go home. Yeah, I don't think that if he's gotten this far, he's just gonna pack it up now, guy. I mean, you just shot his wife. The game itself also clearly knows how contrived this is as well, as when you take control of Chris at the end, one of his own men even outright tells him that he should have explained it to Ethan sooner, to which Chris agrees. So yeah, ultimately, Chris, what a boneheaded move. Who knows, Ethan might still be alive, if not for you. Number 7, Wanda, Shadow of the Colossus. Never underestimate the tunnel vision that grief gives you. Never doubt the lengths that your mind will go to freeze out every dissenting voice when it has itself set on a solution to your pain. And for a lesson in this, look no further than Wanda from Shadow of the Colossus. We don't know much about our hero in the game. All we concretely know is that he loved a woman named Mano. But when Mano dies, Wanda is tempted by a demon into a desperate bargain to bring her back to life. If Wanda wishes to see Mano again, he must destroy the Colossi, 16 gigantic, ancient, powerful beasts, who pretty much have done nothing wrong. The demon's bargain is so transparently untrustworthy that it's a testament to Wanda's grief and desperation that he doesn't immediately see right through it. But sure enough, Wanda does what the demon asks, killing these majestic, unique creatures throughout the game, a task that ends up costing him everything in the end. And even though the demon is ultimately defeated in the end, it doesn't change the damage Wanda inflicted. At the end of the title, 16 unique creatures have been taken out of the world, and the world is all the lesser for it. Number 6, Link, Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. One of the final on our list who was unaware of the damage that would come about by his actions, the entire latter half of Ocarina of Time is low-key Link's fault. See, Ganondorf knew that he wouldn't be able to breach the Sacred Realm on his own, so he let this little kid who was running around solving folks' problems just do it for him. Once Link did, however, Ganondorf swooped in and took the Sacred Realm for himself, leaving Link magically comatose for the next 7 years. So yeah, while not really his fault, at least not to the extent of the entries to come, single-minded determination to get the Master Sword and enter the Sacred Realm ultimately left him utterly unprepared for Ganondorf's trickery, leading to the Demon King subjugating all of Hyrule, or judging by the graphics of the game, just Castletown and a bit of the surrounding countryside, because like everything else just looked fine, but you know, it's supposed to be all of Hyrule. Few other versions of Ganondorf would display such guile, which is probably part of why we still remember Ocarina's version to this day. Number 5, Kratos, God of War 3. Other games on this list end with the hero making everything worse, but then you've got Kratos just screwing things up for everybody from minute 1 of his 3rd installment. See, Kratos on his way to finally bringing about the end of Olympus itself, with an army of titans right behind him, may I add, gets one of the coolest boss fights / tutorials in gaming history to start us off with in Poseidon. See, the fight is a massive one, teasing the epic scale of things to come, and at the end of the bout, Kratos subjects Poseidon into one of the most brutal QTEs in the history of the mechanic, by having the player gouge out his eyes by pressing down on the analog sticks. And then, because you've just killed Poseidon, all of Greece floods, because that's what happens when you murder the god of the ocean. And somehow it only gets more apocalyptic from there on out, with each god Kratos kills getting him closer to ending the Greek mythology as a whole. Number 4, Dankowsky, Pathologic. Pathologic has multiple characters to play through in order to get the very best ending possible, and naturally, for a game this unendingly bleak, they start you off with the worst of the 3. And mind you, one of the other guys is a serial killer, so, keep that in mind. Dankowsky, or The Bachelor as the game titles him, is described in the game as, quote, a prickly prick that will bury us all, and boy howdy is his storyline dedicated to proving that sentiment correct. See, Dankowsky doesn't think very highly of the plague-stricken Russian steppe village that the game takes place in. Being a city boy with a bachelor's in medicine, naturally, he sees himself as pretty much a god amongst men, all the way down to his goal in the game being to overcome death itself like some kind of pulp-mad scientist. And going through Daniil's story, we'll see you rubbing elbows with the elite of the city who want to weather the inevitable shelling of the city by the Russian military in a giant, architecturally insane structure on the edge of town, leaving the rest of the village to die. And even before this, Daniil's actions cause the burning of a strange giant cow that, in another character storyline, you learn can actually help cure the plague. So yeah, the summation of this idiot at the beginning of this entry is definitely accurate. If the Bachelor has his way at the end of Pathologic, that prickly prick really does bury them all. Seriously though, this game absolutely rules. You should check out H-Bomber Guy's massive essay that he did on this. It's just, man, it's something else. Number 3, Tim, Braid. Jonathan Blow's Braid is a story of obsession and how it blinds us, and of course us in this case being represented by protagonist Tim. The story of Braid is admittedly vague as hell, mostly left up to interpretation, but one thing is clear if you're paying attention to the visuals and the few bits of story the game does give you, and that's that Tim does not think highly of anyone other than himself, and he doesn't really like himself all that much either. If you know this game, then you know the twist at the end of the final level, where it's revealed that the princess that Tim spends the entire story obsessively chasing was in fact running away from Tim, instead of towards him. But even beyond his narrow-minded projections onto this woman that he's decided to chase after, the entire game is filled with Tim killing every creature that he comes across. The game literally keeps score and doesn't let you progress until every enemy is dead, and this, at its most callous, means sacrificing a bunch of adorable little bunny rabbits to continue the plot. So yeah, no wonder the princess was desperate to get away from this psycho at the end. Number 2, Anders Dragon Age 2. When we met Anders in Dragon Age Awakening, we're left with little reason to believe that he had any profound thoughts on the plight of the mages one way or another. The flippant, snarky young man was mostly following the Warden around for a laugh, only really growing close with Justice, the noble spirit that the Warden picks up along the way. But when Hawk meets Anders in Dragon Age 2, things are a little bit different. See, the body Justice was using in Awakening had long since broken down, causing Anders to offer his own. However, when Justice possessed Anders, it opened up every trauma inflicted upon him throughout his life by the Templars. This not only awakened Anders' revolutionary spirit, but it tragically mutated the noble spirit of Justice into a violent demon of vengeance, prone to taking over Anders and going on a rampage. What was intended as a symbiotic relationship turns over the course of Dragon Age 2 into a case of mutually assured destruction, with Anders and Vengeance's worst natures tearing them both apart, to the point where, in Act 3, it's constantly up in the air which one is even talking at any given time. This of course culminates in the tragic ending of Dragon Age 2, where Anders triggers the Mage-Templar War by blowing up the largest chantry in Kirkwall. Hawk then has to leave the life they fought so hard for, and the entire world is thrown into a violent conflict, and sadly, it's kind of all Anders' fault. Number 1, Captain Walker, Spec Ops: The Line. Of course, it had to be Spec Ops: The Line. This features one of the most infamous protagonists in gaming history, so there was no real question who was going to come out on top. Spec Ops: The Line intentionally lures you into a false sense of security as it opens with the usual trappings of the AAA titles of its era. You know, soldiers, helicopters, vaguely Middle Eastern settings, modern military, all of that stuff. It then uses all of that to metaphorically and very literally beat lead character Walker, our supposed hero and player character, over the head with the morality of his mission. See, throughout his mission, Walker rips apart whatever little is left of the destroyed Dubai in a series of increasingly ghoulish war crimes, culminating in the game's most infamous white phosphorus set piece. No matter which ending you end up with at the end, the game's nihilistic approach to the military shines obliquely through, all perfectly symbolized in a soldier who came to this place to be something that he isn't, that being a hero. So that's our list. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Have you ever encountered a hero that just made anything worse? And could you believe any of this lot did the things that they did? Let me know, and while you're down there, if you could, please give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to WhatCulture.com for more lists and news like this every single day. Even if you don't though, I've been Josh. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.